By request, we are looking at a Masked Hero deck today. On screen is somewhat of a standard build of the deck, but the problem with this build is largely it needs to go first and put Dark Law on the field. Yet, even if this is accomplished, the idea of protecting Dark Law has reverted, in a sense, to the Solemn Brigade and Honest Neos. And overall, that's somewhat of a reach when it comes down to it, especially with what the most modern meta decks can do with the field. Basically, the standard build needs to draw well and go first to have any real chance of winning, and even then, it's still somewhat hit or miss. This lack of diversity and overall power is a good reason why hero decks have not really done anything in the given meta, despite Dark Law still being a rather annoying card and Honest Neos being excellent new backup. So maybe it's time to move away from the standard build and focus on a build that has more playmaking power. Of the existing hero hybrids that one could choose from, I like an old school partnership between Destiny heroes and Elemental heroes. So let's get to the build. Starting with the Elemental hero portion of the build, I run only 2 copies of Shadow Mist because the playmaking of this build does not favor having Shadow Mist in hand necessarily, but instead summoning it from the deck through various methods or dumping it to the graveyard and netting its search effect to start your combo playmaking. Unfortunately, you cannot use both effects of Shadow Mist in the same turn, which does limit a little of the consistency and playmaking of the deck, but that's always been the sad refrain when it came to Shadow Mist. I run 3 copies of Vyon due to its Shadow Mist dumping potential to net a +1 with its search, and then netting another potential +1 with a Polymerization search. Finally, I run only 1 copy of Honest Neos because most of the time the duel will swing in your favor and end rather quickly after its use, and due to its searchability, multiple copies can be inconsistent to playmaking. Honest Neos isn't a bad card, just like Honest isn't a bad card, but there are definitely times when you want something better for a given situation. For the Destiny Hero portion of the build, I run 1 copy of Plasma, which can be rather nasty when it's brought out, and its summons is not hugely inconsistent in this deck, and even if worse comes to worse, it can simply be fodder for a card like Destiny Draw. 3 copies of the generally obligatory Malicious in any Destiny Hero deck. Definitely a key card for extra deck playmaking, be it summoning Beatrice or Isolde, or even as a base for Dark Law summoning. 2 copies of Celestial, which serves a nice dual purpose as a key spell card remover when it attacks, the few times it actually hits the field rather than being used as fusion material, and as a strong comeback card with its graveyard draw effect. I run 1 copy of Dreamer as an Isolde summoning target for extra deck plays, or as a stall element, protecting a Destiny hero from battle destruction for a single turn. Finally, 1 copy of Dark Angel, which in combination with Celestial can be rather nasty, stacking an important spell card on top of the deck during the standby phase, and then Celestial can be used to draw it during main phase 1 after you burn the card you drew. Unfortunately, Master Rule 4 has pretty much completely killed its annoying spell negation effect when summoning it to the opponent's field, so its spell stacking ability is the only reason to run it, beyond being just a Destiny hero in name, because clearly you don't want to give your opponent a free monster to link summon with. For the remaining monsters, I run 3 copies of Goblindbergh for both Shadow Mist plays as well as Isolde summoning, along with 1 copy of Doppelwarrior for somewhat advanced combo extension, and 1 copy of Plaguespreader for basic combo extension. For the spells, I run 2 copies of A Hero Lives for both Dark Law summoning and getting just an extra monster on the field to make bigger combo plays. 3 copies is workable as well, but with only 2 valid targets in the deck, 3 can be a little inefficient. The potential 4,000 life point payment is risky, but typically is worth it for the deck. 3 copies of Destiny Draw work nicely in this deck, especially thanks to Isolde giving the deck another Destiny Hero search avenue. 2 copies of Instant Fusion for another means to summon a warrior monster to help Isolde summoning, as well as other extra deck playmaking. 2 copies of Mask Change and 1 copy of Mask Change 2 for Dark Law summoning. The required discard from Change 2 is not that big of a deal for this deck, and there are times when you'll have something like Doppelwarrior or Plaguespreader Zombie, but not a hero monster, and you want to summon Dark Law with the Mass Change 2 because you can't with the simple Mass Change. Also, I run 1 copy of the Obvious Reinforcement of the Army for searching. For the purpose of Isolde's from the deck summoning effect, you do need to run equip spells if you want to take advantage of that effect, and it's fairly useful, so let's throw in those equip spells. I choose to run 1 copy of Refusion to either discard to the grave for Isolde's summoning effect, or it's actually not a bad card in this deck to resummon one of the many Elemental Hero or Destiny Hero fusions that you can put on the field, and 1 copy of Phoenix Blade, which can be reacquired from the graveyard after using it to deck summon with Isolde to add a bit of extra attack power, because taking Dark Law from 2400 to 2700 actually is rather significant. Or you can use it on a monster like Dystopia to provide some actual interruption during the opponent's turn because you're changing his attack power. 1 copy of Raigeki and 1 copy of Upstart are generally standard in most of my decks for field clearance and some level of increased speed and consistency. I also like 1 copy of Foolish Burial to dump Malicious, Shadow Mist, or Plaguespreader. Foolish Burial in this deck is a fairly effective additional combo extender. Closing out the spells, I run 2 copies of Polymerization to increase combo efficiency, and the second copy can be useful for follow-up plays with Angel and Celestial. With Dystopia, when the opponent is in burn range or some other play, you stack Poly with Angel, you draw it with Celestial, you use it to bring out Dystopia, burn your opponent, win the game. Finally, for the traps, I run 1 copy of Solemn Judgment and 2 copies of Phantom Knight's Wing, which is still high quality in decks that can summon Dark Law, for protecting Dark Law and beefing up its attack power, protecting Plasma and beefing up its attack power, or even protecting Dystopia, beefing up his attack power, common theme here, and giving Dystopia that interruption pop during the opponent's turn. While popular in Dark Law-centric builds, I do not run Summoner Monk in this build because it's rather difficult to use with Link Summoning right now because there's no generally generic 2 that's going to come out later, and the Dark Attribute hasn't gotten their quote-unquote Mrs. Radiant yet. For the extra deck, I run the following: 1 Dante, Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss, 1 Destiny Hero Dystopiaguy, 1 Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, 2 Masked Hero Dark Law, 1 Destiny Hero Dangerous, 1 Karbonala Warrior or Invoked Raideen. It largely depends on whether I'm going first or second and what deck I'm facing. Karbonala Warrior for number 41 summoning when going first, and Raideen is usually better when going second for Book of Mooning an opponent's monster. 1 Elemental Hero Mariner, Water Attribute, and Warrior monster that can be brought out with Instant Fusion. This is also how I summon Absolute Zero because this deck doesn't run any other water monsters. 1 Beals of the Diabolic Dragon, 1 Psyframe Lord Omega or Stardust Dragon. This is largely depending on what deck you're facing. Is it more effective to take a card out of an opponent's hand, or is it more effective to have Stardust's anti-destruction ability? 1 Herald of the Arclight, 1 Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, 1 number 41 Baguska, 1 Decode Talker, and 1 Isolde. Obviously, it'd probably be better if you ran 2 Isoldes, but I just really can't seem to find the extra deck space. I guess you could just take out Absolute Zero, throw in another Isolde, but I kind of like having Absolute Zero in there as kind of this out-of-nowhere useful card I can bring out from time to time. And I'm rarely in a situation where I'm saying, man, if only I had that second Isolde, because you're only running the 2 equip spells, and Isolde's not that great outside of first turn when you just get that single warrior search. So, how does this deck work? Overall, there are 2 basic skeleton combos. The more basic one is as followed. You get 2 warrior monsters on the field, with one of them being Vyon. You use Vyon's first effect to send Shadow Mist to the graveyard. You search Malicious. Using Vyon's second effect, you banish that Shadow Mist. You add Polymerization. You link summon for Isolde, searching Celestial. Then use Isolde's from deck summoning ability to summon Dreamer. Hopefully you mill the Phoenix Blade because you didn't draw it. Otherwise, you can mill the Refusion. Fusion summon Dangerous using Dreamer and Malicious as the materials. Use Dangerous's effect to discard Celestial to mill Angel. Banish Malicious from the graveyard to special summon a second Malicious. Summon Beatrice using Malicious and Dangerous. Use Beatrice's effect by detaching the Malicious to mill Plaguespreader. Summon the final Malicious. Then special summon Plaguespreader from the graveyard. Synchro Plaguespreader and the third Malicious for a level 8 synchro. Your final field then is something like Isolde with a Beatrice and a Beals or an Omega or a Stardust Dragon or whatever level 8 you can summon with Plaguespreader and the Malicious. The longer combo involves the same general setup, but instead of summoning Dreamer, you summon Doppelwarrior, and you use a Destiny hero from hand to summon Dangerous instead of Dreamer. Then summon Herald of the Arclight using Plaguespreader and Doppelwarrior. Then summon the Malicious from the deck, tribute the Malicious and the 2 Doppel tokens for Plasma, leaving you at the final field of Isolde, Plasma, Herald of the Arclight, and Beatrice. Now some may ask, where's Darklaw in all this? You know, Darklaw is kind of important in this day and age of Yu-Gi-Oh! For hero decks. Well, do remember these combos are just basic, almost minimalistic skeletons of what can be done. A fair number of times, you will have sufficient material in hand to not need to use Vyon's first effect for dumping Shadow Mist and getting the Shadow Mist search, opening the door to using Shadow Mist's initial on special summon search for a mass change to summon Darklaw later, or you'll just have a mass change in your hand to begin with, because this deck can draw fairly effectively. Well, that is my Masked Hero deck. Thank you for your attention and your time. I'm out.